Alright y'all, so we back with another video. This time it isn't film. I haven't done one of these commentary type of videos in a very long time. I think it's been like 5 or 6 straight videos of straight film. So now I'm coming back at y'all with one of these commentary videos just to keep the balance, you feel me? But the other day on Twitter I threw out a question, shameless plug by the way, and I asked y'all, what do y'all think MPJ's ceiling could be in his first full year starting? And within the first hour of that tweet being up, I could see the answers were all over the place. Some had him lighting up the league with video game numbers, 4,500 yards, 40 touchdowns, just dominating the league. And others a little bit more grounded, 3,500, 25 touchdowns, manage the game, don't lose it. But what I did notice is that 90% of those responses, they were purely statistical. Yardage, touchdowns, and maybe some rushes sprinkled in. And I get it, the stats are easy to quantify. And they're digestible for like the average fan and, fans that know a little bit more than the average fan. But that really wasn't what I was trying to get at. When I asked about his ceiling, I wasn't asking about how many points he could put up in fantasy, how many touchdowns, could he win an award. I was asking what kind of quarterback could he be, what's his play style, the identity that he'll hold in this league, and how will his identity help us win games this season. So let's go ahead and zoom out real quick. So Cam Newton started it like 2 years ago when he was talking about game manager or game changer, and I think he left out a third one, and we're going to get into it. And I think it's a really rare category because you've only seen it about 5 or 6 times. So the first one, you have the game managers. We know what that is. It's the conservative, safe, don't rock the boat type of quarterback. He's usually limited physically and mentally. You can cut the playbook down for these guys, and you can hide them in structure and you can win in spite of them, not because of them. Then you have the game changers. These are the highlight machines. Think of Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen still to an extent, early Patrick Mahomes. You're asking these guys to win the game for you, and they're just a walking highlight reel. I think with that type of quarterbacking style, you also playing on the edge a lot. And, when that edge is dull, and when the defenses adjust in the playoffs, when the pressure rises, that game-changing style becomes harder to rely on consistently. And y'all see that with Lamar Jackson. Y'all see that with Josh Allen. Even though Josh Allen looked a little bit better in the playoffs, well, when that AFC Championship game came around, it looked awful. And then the third one that nobody really talks about, and that's my opinion. I don't think anybody's really talked about this. You've seen the term thrown around, but people really don't understand what it means, or people don't really explain what it is. And that's a field general, and that's what I want MPJ to become. And this is just my interpretation of it. A field general is a guy who runs the game. He doesn't just play it. He's a processor. He's in full command of the offense, especially pre-snap, shifting protections, killing plays, reading the structure of the defense before the ball's even snapped. Now, if we're talking about post-snap, he's really decisive. He's efficient. He's always in rhythm. He doesn't waste plays, and he doesn't panic. He doesn't play scared either. And if you need good examples of what a field general is, the best example is a Tom Brady, a Peyton Manning. You could even say Drew Brees in the latter part of his career. Even Mahomes, people are saying he's fallen off, but if you look at the past few years, he really isn't sitting up here trying to bomb the ball or really being like, okay, we need to go win this game because of me. He has his defense now, and he's more, I wouldn't say conservative, but he's smarter with the football. He's more calculated. That's what field generals are. They're not reckless. They're not erratic. They're really calculated in what they're doing, and they're really in command of the whole game. They can dictate the flow. If you think back to our week 3 game against them, even though we were actually able to keep up with them, it never felt like we were just really in control of that game because of number 15. And then a controversial example, which people may not agree with me on, is that Jalen Hurts. He's an actual, great field general. If you watch this season, you could say his counting numbers weren't great. He also missed a few games because of that concussion, but if you're really up here just watching the game, you see he's in command of the team. He's getting the team out of bad plays. He's keeping them ahead of schedule. He's keeping them in good positions consistently. And he also had a great defense and a great run game to back that up. Now, if you were to put an actual game manager in that position, I would say a Sam Darnold. He's a game manager. I don't think he would do just as well because he doesn't have full command of that offense. And you could say Sam Darnold played really well last year, and that's good, but that's just the one-year thing. This is a new year, right? So you have to reprove that, hey, I still can do what I just did last year. And I think the important thing is MPJ, he's shown flashes of being that type of field general quarterback already. If you look at week 17 against Washington, and I went over this in my film video, the Commanders, they sent a 5-man blitz from a 3 deep, 3 underneath, and he identified it quickly. He said, okay, we got to shift the protection that way. And once he shifted that protection, he was able to get the ball out, okay? That's what field generals do. They don't just sit up here and see the blitz and don't do anything about it. We've seen Desmond do that. We've seen Taylor Heineke do that. We've seen Marcus Mariota do that, where it's an obvious blitz and they're not doing anything about it. And to have a rookie quarterback who's doing that in his second start, you really don't see rookie QBs doing that unless they know what they're looking at. Another example to a lesser extent, against Carolina the very next week, same story, but he took a check down to Tyler Algier. They ran 4 verse, I think, and Tyler Algier was just underneath wide open. He didn't force a pass. He didn't try to extend the play. He took what the defense gave him. And that takedown netted us about 10 yards. So it's just the small things like that. They always add up. If you think back to our Super Bowl game against Tom Brady, he really didn't come back by bombing the ball down the field. He just took what the defense gave him. And the check down to the running back was wide open a lot of times. And James White, he had 120 yards against us on 11 catches. But you get the point. Those paper cuts will add up. And that's why people look at Mahomes like, damn, has he fallen off? No, he's just being extremely calculated. He's not being necessarily conservative, but he's being in control of the game. He's not letting the game get away from him. And if you want a fuller picture glimpse of what that field general version of MPJ might look like, you can go back to his first start. And you have to listen to me on this one because I know it may sound crazy. So no, that first game, it wasn't fireworks. He didn't throw a touchdown. The defense gave them, they gave them a lot of short fields, I would say. No, we won the field position battle. And they also gave us 14 free points off of turnovers. And if you watch that game, he always had that calm demeanor. He kept the offense in good situations. He wasn't erratic. He wasn't late. And unlike a game manager, he wasn't handicapped by his lack of ability. He wasn't limited in what he could do. He just didn't need to force the issue. And yeah, I know that was just his first start, and I understand that. But you might think I'm jumping the gun with that. But I'm not saying that's his peak. I'm saying if you take that foundation, that calm, efficient baseline, and you add growth, reps, and experience, we have a good quarterback on our hands. Because when you give Michael Penix Jr. this type of quarterback, when you give him a run game, we already have that. A top half defense, I'm hoping we have that. And a coaching staff that trusts him, I know we have that by the way they talk about him. This team is going to be very hard to beat if everything clicks perfectly. And if you're asking what does it take to become a field general, we have to be realistic for a second. To become a full field general, a true, I have command of this game no matter what, Penix has to develop, obviously. That kind of command, it doesn't really come with just watching film and understanding defenses. You need live reps. You need to go through the fire, the different looks, the different disguises, third down, 2-minute drill. You have to feel the game to be good at being a field general. And I have another off-topic example. If you look at Lamar Jackson, we all know he's a game changer. He's really good, right? Probably the best quarterback in the league, but in the playoffs where he fails, it's just that situational football, I would say, and also just understanding he has to walk that fine line between pressing and being conservative. Because if you look early in his career, he was always pressing. He was always pressing. Then the last 2 years, he was just ultra conservative, but he had those moments where he was just pressing too hard. Field generals, they aren't indecisive. They know what they want to do. They know where the ball needs to go. So I think, for example, like I said, Lamar, if he can develop as a field general and not just be a game changer, that's going to be one of the top 5 quarterbacks ever. Because he can win multiple Super Bowls playing like that. So back on topic, if the Falcons want him to become that guy, they've got to let him play. Let him fail. Let him, not be successful a lot of times, because that's going to happen. It comes with playing the quarterback position, okay? And most importantly, the coaches need to trust him with the responsibility of this offense, and they already do. You don't create a field general by babysitting him with screen passes on 3rd and 7. You know what I'm saying? You don't really just sit up here and baby a quarterback and think he's going to actually become something greater. We have to let him live and learn, and you'll understand, okay, do we have a guy, do we not? And I really think we do have a guy. You build it by trusting him to make those decisions, and you learn from those mistakes. And if he gets there, if MPJ becomes that guy who can beat the blitz, control the tempo, shift the protection, kill a play, change the play, keep the offense out of bad spots, we don't need 4,500 yards and 40 touchdowns. If he's giving us 38, 50 passing yards, if he's giving us 240 rushing yards and 30 total touchdowns, and he's playing field general football, that tells me the Falcons are playing complementary football. It tells me the defense are getting stops. It tells me the run game is alive. The offense isn't asking him to win the week by himself. He's just keeping it all glued together and all grounded because he is the foundation. And in my opinion, I think that's how you build a winning team. That's how you avoid another Matt Ryan situation where you have a borderline elite quarterback. I think he was elite. People think he wasn't elite. I'm not finna argue with you. That Matt Ryan was really good. You're not about to gaslight me, okay? But you had a very good quarterback with no defense, no balance, and ultimately we had no playoff success. We had 1 or 2 runs, but if you look at his career, really didn't get anything done in the playoffs. We don't want the numbers without the structure. We want the whole thing to work. So if we circle back to the original question, what is MPJ's ceiling? it's really not about the stats, it's about the identity, and that identity should be a fully realized field general. This team can beat anyone in 2025, and I honestly believe that. So if this defense gets right, I know our run game is going to be fine. It just all falls on MPJ and his development. But that's really all for me. I'm done rambling. I just had to think about that. I really just had to explain, my thought process behind that. I didn't have intentions on making this type of video because ironically, I have another film video coming out about Darnell Mooney, by the way. Y'all should be on the lookout for that. But once I asked that question, I was like, wait, I can make a video out of this because a lot of people don't really know what a field general is, okay? But that's all from me, y'all. If y'all enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe for more. I upload Falcons content a lot, and I'll see you guys later in the next video. Goodbye.